Help us change the culture by buying our latest single from Timcast Records, Only Ever Wanted, by clicking the link in the description below. Let's actually just jump to the story. Okay, so we have this from the Wall Street Journal. Judge orders Justice Department to release redacted affidavit leading to search of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. I'll put it simply for you guys. The affidavit is mostly redacted. We don't even know half of the stuff in there is. From the sounds of it, Donald Trump's people were in communications with the National Archives. They said, you have stuff that you took from the White House that's, part of the archives. The boxes, Trump had 15, contained newspaper clippings, magazines, personal memos, and some classified information.
Women's underwear.
Perhaps. Donald Trump's people returned those boxes. The FBI then said, when they were told by the National Archives, they believed that was probable cause, that Donald Trump still had more stuff in his house, and therefore they should raid him. They then found 11 packets of documents and took them because they were classified. Kash Patel mentioned the president declassified these things. They shouldn't have taken them. It sounds like they knew Trump had Crossfire Hurricane, Russiagate documents that were going to potentially implicate, or at the very least besmirch, the name of the FBI. And they needed an excuse to go in, check, or seize. This sounds dangerously corrupt and dirty. And I don't know. I mean, did Donald Trump not have copies of whatever these documents were? He's an old guy, so maybe. But I don't know if I believe there was any reason that would warrant what they did at Trump's house, because he was cooperating. He had already turned over these items.
Yeah, that's like if there was a gun recall and they're like, turn in your guns, and you turn in your gun, and then they're like, hey, that's evidence that you might have more guns. We're going to break into your house and check. Like, what? No. I did what you asked. I returned the item. Maybe it had been if you're like, return your contraband items. If there's like a drug recall, return your cocaine. You return it, you get rid of it. Like there are societies where they're like, here, dispense it there. Then they use that as a reason to go check your. That's insanity. No.
I just think it's unrealistic to think any government entity asks you to turn in something with blinders on, right? They never granted anyone immunity. They asked him to turn in something and it immediately gave them cause. If you turned in drug paraphernalia or guns, of course, then they're going to be like, well, we know you have a history of owning drug paraphernalia or guns. We're going to continue down this road.
How about that completely fake story about nuclear documents?
Oh, yeah.
The Washington Post was like, they were looking for nuclear documents. And then I see all these leftists, and they're like, Trump stole 300 nuclear documents and the right's defending him. And then it turns out the warrant was just like, we would like all documents at any point during your presidency that you may have. It's like, okay, well, they were looking for literally anything. It's called a fishing expedition. They gave themselves a broad warrant to take whatever they wanted. It really does sound like they're scared that those documents from Crossfire Hurricane will get out. Now, I have to wonder this. Why didn't Trump just release them if that's the case? Perhaps Trump was preparing an October surprise when he was announcing he would be running for president, and then he would say, boom, here's the story. And they wanted to stop him.
That would make sense.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think it's also notable, we talked about this a little bit before, but they didn't leak this. I mean, Trump is the one who announced to the world that they were raiding his house. This was not leaked to the press beforehand. I don't think the FBI wanted anyone to know this is what they were doing.
They wanted to turn off the surveillance cameras and stuff, I remember.
Yeah. They wanted it to be, they wanted to have the element of surprise and, have this happen clandestinely until they had decided what they had found to then tell you about it. And again, Donald Trump kind of interrupted that narrative by being like, no, they're at my house. Let's all pay attention to this. And everyone was shocked by it. I mean, I don't think anyone had a clear explanation. I think on the left, there was a lot of scrambling to come up with a good reason why they would have done this, especially when they knew he wasn't there. That was one of the things that bothered me. It was known that he was in New Jersey because of a golf tournament at the time. Yeah.
Yep.
They specifically picked a time when he wouldn't be there to do this.
The same FBI team that oversaw the Russia investigation raids his house to take documents that people are saying was from the Russia investigation. Sounds like there's corruption afoot.
Yeah, they've been on the track to start this, to transition to a new world order, reduce, I don't know what they're doing with the American military bases, but just from the liberal world order to the new world order. And Donald Trump was slowing it down. And then so behind the scenes, they're like, we just don't want him slowing us down. But in public, they're like, he's a villain, so hate him so that you don't elect him again.
Oh, I mean, he said he was going to dismantle a lot of that stuff anyway in his second term if he ever got one or something like that.
That's right. I'm looking forward to it.
We were saying that desperation leads to mistakes, and there's no way we can look at this aside from this was a mistake. they're making moves that suggest that if they didn't do it, they would get dismantled. So we may as well do something really crazy to try to save ourselves, because if we don't, we're going to lose anyway. So they're losing reputation by doing things like this.
I think if we start being honest with ourselves and each other, that like, yeah, it's inevitable, man. We're globalizing. This world is coming together in a new way. We're not going to be the king of the hill. We're never supposed to be like the top leader ever. We're part of it.
Well, I'm okay with America. I mean, I'm ignorant, so when I say this, take it with a grain of salt. I'm okay with America just kind of cooling it off a little bit. Let's focus on ourselves, getting it together here for a little while before, like, it's like that verse, not to quote too many things, of like, before you tell your friend, hey, you've got a plank in your eye, or no, you've got a speck of dust. I've got a plank in my eye. How about America cleans its own act up before telling the rest of the world how to, operate themselves? And if the rest of the world wants to drive themselves into a hole and a socialist nightmare, whatever, the downside to that is that we lose access to resources and, our advantage across the planet. But maybe we need to focus on ourselves for a little while to clean up.
America's been acting like, as this dude who's got a bunch of credit card debt, can't pay it off, keeps taking out more loans instead, and then going around and just yelling at the neighbors about how they got to pay up and give them money.
Yeah.
And
or it's like me going to your house and saying, I don't like where your furniture is. Let me start moving things around, but my house is a mess.
Yeah.
Well, I think, just to be a little bit more specific, the U.S. is just like riddled with debt and then basically just printing money behind the scenes to satiate its addictions while criticize, it's just...
They're either assuming
broken system.
All right, so they're going to pass on that debt to the next generation. So maybe they're assuming that the next generation is going to do really good, and our kids will be able to pay that bill. That's the optimistic way to look at it.
That's modern monetary theory, is that you print enough, go into deficit, and that you are able to build enough industry and infrastructure that the product starts to outweigh the debt, and eventually you bypass the investiture.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we haven't been investing it in industry properly in the last 10 years.
That's the lie. That's what they want you to think to make it make sense. They want you to think that, no, look, we're going to deficit spend. I know, you're right, it's bad. But we're going to build these factories and it's going to make up for it. No, there always has to be more debt. There always has to be more debt to keep the machine churning. And all they do is, it's a Ponzi scheme. Remember when Obama did that stimulus where he just basically gave people money? It's like, all right, everybody get free money. Then they did it again. They did it with COVID. It's like, everybody here, more free money. Now they're talking about how disposable income is so high that people are not working. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And now they're doing debt forgiveness. I look at the student debt forgiveness stuff, and I think it's in line with their policy of just throwing money at people. And I wonder why that is.
Well, I also think it's part of their policy of, we're going to give you the good headlines, right? But Joe Biden's going to be the I left Afghanistan and canceled student debt president. But it's a soundbite. None of it is real. I mean, as you have said before.
It's more than that. They gave free money, unemployment. They gave free money, bonus checks. They deferred student loans, and now they're paying student loans. They're doing a whole bunch of things that basically just distribute wealth to other to people.
It's monopoly money.
They're just but like they're flooding the system. Yeah. It's going to cause hyperinflation and destroy it. It feels like it's on purpose. When Biden's like, I'm going to cancel student debt, it's like after you already gave all of these people free money for not working, you deferred their payments, gave them unemployment guarantees with bonuses on top, and they did not pay their debts, but they didn't have to. Now their debts are kicking back in. Don't worry, we delayed another 4 months. And we're going to pay down 10 grand of it. It's like, why didn't they just use the money they were getting for free to pay down what they had to pay down? They just keep throwing money at people. And where's that money coming from? Your pocket.
The Federal Reserve. It's what's happening is they're getting it from the Federal Reserve, and then so they'll borrow $1 from the Federal Reserve, but then we owe $1.01 back. So where's that 1 cent come from? The Federal Reserve. So now you owe interest on the money you took out to pay the interest. That's the Ponzi scheme.
Tax money does go to the federal government. They do use your money, and then they deficit spend by borrowing money and doing fractional reserve money creation stuff. But a lot of the money that's being distributed is literally just your tax dollars that went to the government. So the funny thing is right now, these leftists are like, if you forgive student loan debt, you're just erasing the debt from the books. It's like, you are correct, but that means the money that we gave you, our money, is not coming back. You have taken our money from us. Now, I'm in favor of getting rid of the interest rates and trying to alleviate the student debt problem for sure. But taking money from the working class to pay for the laptop class does not sound like, good policy.
The more steps that you have, it obscures what you're doing, and it just confuses people. Like, if I read a headline, I'll just read the headline. I'm not going to really look into it deeply. Most people are very low resolution when it comes to reading the news or even understanding the news. I don't have time to read deeply. That's why I watch the news in the first place. I want the quick story so I can quickly understand what's going on. And the more steps, they're doing it on purpose. The more steps are involved. John Doe, going to work every day, 9 to 5. He's exhausted. He's got his kids. He's got his hobbies. He's tired all the time. He doesn't need to be thinking about all this. Mm-hmm. And some of them, they package it in such a way that I'm happy. Oh, minimum wage is now $15. That's great.
Yeah.
But wait, why is milk now $5 when it used to be $2?
Well, let's never forget the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, Joe Biden wants to be the headline president where he's giving you these, like, do you remember all those good
It's all
things I
surface
passed?
level.
It's all
I
surface
love it.
level.
I
He
love
doesn't
it.
want anyone to look into it. And ultimately, he is causing extreme damage in his wake. But he's going to come around and be like, no, the Democrats are the party of reducing inflation and, like, forgiving student loans.
This is the one thing that would make me want to run for office, is that if you're in Congress, you can come out there and be like, I'm proposing the Help the Small Babies Act.
Save the kiddies.
And what does the bill do? It takes $20 from every paycheck so that I can buy myself a house. Like, just really egregiously awful things. It'd be like, the bill just basically says Tim Pool gets $20 of every American's paycheck and will be rich, but it's called like the Save the Dying Children Act. Like, why won't you vote for this?
What's wrong with you?
There was a comic and it's like the Free Beer Act.
Yes.
Did you see this one?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so when do I get a free beer? And it's like, what do you mean free beer? The Free Beer Act just raises your taxes by 2%.
Yeah. Well, I call it low resolution versus high resolution. Most people, I mean, I'm stealing this from Peterson, sort of, but most people don't have time to, in graphics terms, a high resolution image takes more time to render. So CPU wise, if I have to read a full page of text to understand what this bill is versus just give me the headline, that's the low resolution version.
But the problem with low resolution is you lose resolution.
All the detail.
Well, and when you see this with articles, it'll have the big headline that's flashy. It'll have the first couple lines that have information. But any information that sort of sways or gives partisan, like if a publication wants you to have a certain view on an issue, they put it in the top third of the article because that's as bad as far as you're going to read. Yeah. And all the nuanced details are in the bottom two-thirds.
The bad news is in the...
Right.
Yeah.
Anything that may contradict their claims. And that's because they know that people won't read that far. They just, I mean, there's so much media and so much information coming out at all times right now. It's actually very difficult to stay well informed on everything. So I can't really fault the general public for that, but
it's how the human mind works.
Right. It's the easiest way to sway someone.
But they're playing the game in such a way that, like, Democrats, I'll give them credit for this. Most people don't have time to think about things this deeply. The average person, you can call them stupid, but actually they're just busy probably. Mm-hmm. That's why I mean, not to toot my own horn too much, but that's why comics work so well, is because they say, like, a picture is worth 1,000 words, let's say. But my comics have 4 panels. So my
4,000 words.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like a zip file. I don't remember if I've said this before. A comic is like a zip file. It's cross-referencing with like hyperlinks that you might have read a story about this. Now you're seeing 4 images that are related to that story. But now you're thinking about other things that these images are now recalling memories from your memory, and you're now filling in the blanks. So my 4 images are now giving you a full essay in the span of 5 seconds, maybe less. That's why images are so powerful, and that's why headlines are powerful, and that's why Twitter, I've said this forever, Twitter is comics. Yeah. It's just every tweet is like a panel. You're scrolling. You're getting maybe an image. That's why I will often attach an image to my tweets, because it makes you stop scrolling. What's this image? It's very shocking to look at.
When I worked
real quick, we pulled this panel up, this comic from George.
This comic.
We have this comic hanging on our wall. It's right to the left of George. Actually, you can't see it, but it's Joe Biden, and he says it is estimated that 200 million people will die by the time I finish that talk, and that time is now. And then he fires force lightning from his hands and just electrocutes everyone in the crowd. It's hilarious, and they're like, their eyes are glowing, and there's lightning everywhere.
This is like a misspeak of Biden too.
He literally said this.
Yeah.
He literally said.
He didn't say this time is now, but
no, I know, but that's the point. Like, people who see this are going to be like, "What's this about?"
Yeah.
And then someone's going to say, like, that first panel is an actual quote from Joe Biden.
He was talking about COVID deaths, I believe, and
Yes.
that he accidentally said 200 million when he meant 200,000 or 2 million.
No. What
or
he meant
something.
was, he said it is what he meant to say was, It is estimated that by the time I finish this talk, there will be. Yeah, no, you're right. He was going to say by the time I finish this talk, X amount of people will have died.
Yeah,
Right.
but it was like only 200,000 or something. It was a lower number,
2,000,
but he
yeah.
said
But-
200 million.
He said
No. He said will die, not will have died.
Oh God.
So it's,
All his tenses are wrong.
It
That's
keeps,
right.
it keeps getting
That's
better.
why it's important to have a good editor.
I know, right?
Thanks for bringing this up.
But I just love how he just the last panel of the guy screaming with like he's like just being electrocuted by Biden's force lightning.
So what we're doing is, as we're scrolling, let's say I see this in my Twitter. Nobody ever thinks about this, but it's
And
what
that time
comics
is
is.
now.
I'm scrolling. I see someone getting electrocuted. I laugh. I'm now bypassing all the firewalls, and you're like, I don't remember what the
Frontal cortex?
I'm going straight to your amygdala. I'm going into your deep brain. You're laughing. You don't even know why yet. Now you're reading, and now you're downloading that zip file that I gave you.
And it says Valor Margulis on his
Harris Biden.
Harris
I love
Biden.
I love it.
I don't know the neurology about laughter and how it affects.
Same with crying and fear. If I go boo, you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to be scared. It's just a reflex.
This plays into what we were talking about earlier with why we're doing music. We're like creating funny, relatable, or entertaining spaces.
That's what the arts are.
This is what regular people associate with. This is what I was explaining earlier on one of my segments when I was shouting out the song we did. When I used to do nonprofit fundraising, if you saw somebody like Ian in the street and you walked up to him and went, "Excuse me, sir, just a moment of your time," and shook his hand and said, "No, I got a proposal for you right now," he'd be like, "Bro, what are you talking about?" You got to walk up to someone like Ian and go, "Bro," high five him and be like, "Listen here, bro. You want to save the trees, right?"
every day.
You got to talk to. You have to meet people where they are.
Relatable.
You can't walk up to a guy in a suit looking like Ian and then being like, "Sup, bro? You want to save some trees?" He's gonna be like, I'm busy. I have no idea." You got to walk up to the guy who's a no nonsense guy and be no nonsense. "Listen, I'll get 5 seconds. We got to save trees. I need you to pitch in. You're gonna do it. Shake my hand, buddy." You have to meet people where they are.
To the left's credit.
If you go to someone with a MAGA hat on and a Trump flag and start saying, "Listen, you need to understand, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden," they're going to be like, "I have no idea who you are. I don't know what you're on about, and this is confusing to me." But if you approach them from where they are, you notice that they've got like a Cubs hat. You can be like, "Cubs, what up, man? You from Chicago?" Be like, "Oh, dude, I got family from Chicago." Meet them where they are, open a conversation, and then find out where you can come together and you can share those important ideas. That's what art does. People will see this, and whether you're political or not, it's funny. Joe Biden's electrocuting a bunch of people.
But
it opens
also,
the door.
It can stimulate things like empathy. Here's a story that maybe you wouldn't have been open to the message of the story, but I have told it in such a way that now you're, oh yeah, I do relate to those characters. I do feel bad for them, or I do feel what they're feeling, and now I'm starting to think the way they are.
I relate to Joe Biden here wanting to use force lightning to vaporize 200 million people.
Just coming out of him,
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
I saw that and I was like, I know exactly how you feel, Joe.
Me too.
We've all misspoken.
I think we have this illusion that people are more politically engaged because politics has seeped into so much of our culture. It's in our popular culture. It's bled into art. We hear about it a lot, and I think that's true even of people who don't work in my field. But actually, most people aren't that interested. They do like comics. They like things that are more accessible to them. So I think you're totally right that having something, if I were to send someone a CNN headline or a Fox News headline, they might already have their guard up. Whereas art or something that they're interested in on a medium that they're already scrolling through, Twitter, is much more accessible and also more enjoyable because they don't feel like they're going to be immediately sorted into some sort of category.
Well, the news a lot of the time is very dry, and I just don't want to download all this information. But if I'm online scrolling, maybe I'm on the toilet or something, I'm on the bus, I just want to be entertained. I want to laugh, I want to smile, I want to see something interesting.
I want to be entertained when I'm on the toilet.
That's right.
I used to have these things called bathroom readers that were like at my house. And they're just books full of random trivia that you're supposed to read when you're taking a dump.
Yeah, I got one in my bathroom. It says, "What is your poo telling you?" Is the name of the book.
Okay, well that's not what I was
helpful.
reading. The book I read was
Yeah,
just
you
like
were.
it was called The Bathroom Reader, and it had on the bottom of every page a factoid, and then it had chapters of like random stories and legends and facts, and it just filled my brain up with random nonsense.
Is that why you know the name of that law? Betterage's
Well, that's
law,
a
whatever?
journalism thing. I despise the corporate press so much that I've
Burned into your brain.
Yes, how can I criticize them today?
What do you guys think about removing titles from bills, just having them numbered?
I think we get too confusing.
I think bills should be chopped up into the individual things that they're trying to pass and not turned into omnibuses.
Yeah. The Confederates had that, didn't they?
They did, yeah. This is actually really interesting. They had something that said something like it has to be a really short summary.
One
a
page,
blurb.
something like
They're
that.
busy.
One,
That's stuff
one
to do.
issue can address
Yeah.
one issue.
Exactly.
But then what?
But they know they can't inject all their stupid crap in there.
Because you could, even with one section of a bill, you could still call it the Happy Lucky Bill, and then all about
You
people.
give me $100.
It's a bill
Falling
called
down.
like the Saving Ian and Helping Him Live a Happy Life bill, but the bill calls for the
Yeah,
imprisonment.
for me to chop wood all day.
yeah, like
Yeah.
to be imprisoned.
You know,
And then it's like, well,
chopping
because
wood.
we think that'll be good for him.
Yeah, yeah.
You think you're helping.
I don't
that's
like
what
the
they do.
names. They're very manipulative.
Oh,
Yeah, they
the
are.
Patriot Act. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
It's garbage.
And
But
people fall for it.
there was one more thing I wanted to add on that subject too, is the fact that the left has annexed all of the arts. It was not an accident. They know that people are bored of news. The only way to, it's like Inception, to give you the thoughts that I want to give you, I'm going to tell you a story or a parable. So they will spend millions and bazillions of dollars creating movies, writing stories, songs, anything related to the arts. And that's why they've taken over all of the arts. I'm not joking. They've taken over all of the arts because that's how you can persuade people without even, they don't even know it.
And they know that it's much harder to convince someone who does know to invest in those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see across the board among those who are aware of what's going on? Everything they do is political. This is what frustrates me. We get a bunch of really great songs, and I'm not saying it's bad. You know, the top ranking songs overtly political. FJB, like 3 different FJB songs reach top. Okay, that's still a net positive because regular people will see like how come the top songs are FJB, but they're not going to convince most people. It does create some awareness. People who are aware, red pilled, whatever you want to call it, it's harder to convince them to say like, hey, subscribe to a children's channel that's like family education content, because they're going to be like, how is this engaging in the battle to fight against these ideas? Because it seems counterintuitive. But it's exactly what the left has been doing to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars.
For decades, maybe a century,
decades.
over a century. I mean, they did it to Hollywood. They're doing it with music. I mean, when we were kids, they were always talking in church about, all this music's all about sex all the time. But we are now seeing what happens when culture's hypersexualizing young people, let's say. We're seeing what happens when that is unchecked. We don't know. Like, I love manga, for instance. If I go to the manga section, like, a lot of young people love it and stuff. But those stories are actually, a lot of them can be pretty raunchy and, like, super rated, X and stuff like that. I could go to a local library. I was telling a young person in my life, hey, you should go to the library and read these mangas, but definitely don't read these ones. I can't stop them from doing that. But when they have access to entertainment that is, let's say there's an agenda to push certain subjects on young people, especially, because when they grow up, they will be more permissive towards these subjects. The parents don't even know what these kids have access to.
No, they don't. I also think the art used to be a polite way. Like, in polite culture, you wouldn't discuss politics or anything too controversial. So you talk about art, you talk about what's going on. And that was an easy way for certain ideologies to route into daily conversation.
Sneaking
They
in
just
there.
jumped around it. And because things are more blurred, and because we have so many, I'm thinking like celebrities who come out with these big public statements about their political beliefs, it's actually not the perfect escape route it once was. And I think it's waking conservatives up to the fact that, like, they abandoned this space before they even knew they could use it.
I mean,
Well,
they
hold
say
on, Ian, what was the number one song right now? You looked it up.
Oh
Remember?
yeah, I have it pulled up.
You have it pulled up?
Only Ever Wanted, I believe, by
No,
Timcast.
no.
Oh,
We wish.
yet.
Super Freaky Girl by Nicki Minaj.
Okay, I wonder what that's about. Honestly, I don't know, but it sounds
Her
like.
looking pretty sexy in that picture. That's for sure.
Remember when Ben Shapiro rapped that famous song
I do
"Wet Ass
remember
Pussy"?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually was
Classic.
really funny because he like read the lyrics and then someone took him reading it and put it over the song. Actually, really funny.
Yeah, hilarious.
But do you wonder why it is that when you look at the top tracks, so often the songs are like not appropriate for kids, or that you actually have some artists that gloat and laugh at the idea that your kids listen to the horrible things they're talking about in this music? Dude, don't ask me why, but the right abandoned this space a long time ago, and it probably has something to do with telling kids like, you don't want to be a musician, that's a waste of a career, like you need to grow up and be a doctor or run a business.
they don't think that the arts, and I've been trying to convince them for the longest time, the arts are not a good investment, they might say. But there's that saying of politics are downstream from culture. When most young people who have more time than anybody else to consume media or anything like that, watch movies, anything, music, they have access to anything that you want to put into their brains without any supervision whatsoever.
Yeah, I think conservatives on some level too reward seriousness or what they perceive as seriousness. And so often when you're interested in creative activities, it's like, well, unless you can prove to me that you can make money off this right away, you know, it's something you do on the side and you enjoy the fun. Whereas like, you know, a credit to my friends who grew up in really liberal households, their parents, when they were passionate about something, did take basically everything seriously. And, you know, there are pros and cons to both approaches, but I think that leaves the door open to people feeling like your art is incredibly important. You have to pursue it to the point where it becomes influential. Whereas, you know, often the other approach is to say like, wait until you have the funds to finance your life as an artist.
No.
When I was younger, the liberals in where I grew up were basically saying you can do whatever you want to do, dream big. You can, you know, you want to be an actor, you want to play video games, whatever it is you want to do. The conservatives in my life were much more like, just work hard, get a good job, and make money. And
There's
then
no
what
fun
happens?
in there.
But you get a lot of people. So I know there are people that I knew that were very much into the arts when they were younger. But they had very conservative parents. You know, I went to Catholic school for a little bit. And where are they now? They have family, they have some kids, and really, they're very happy. Good for them. I'm glad that they're leading a good life. And they're doing right by their kids. But this also means that many of these kids did not pursue the arts that they were involved in, and thus the people who did end up, why is it they all do drugs all the time? Where is it, you know, that where are the rock stars who are just like, oh man, I'm sober, I don't want to do any of that stuff, I'm just about living a good life and doing right by my friends and family and my community.
Sure.
That's like a rare thing to hear in like celebrity culture in Hollywood. They're doing drugs, they're like, you know, just raunchy, you get it.
Have you ever seen have you ever seen the documentary The Other F Word? It's about these punk rockers who like become fathers and kind of what their experience is. It's really good. And a lot of them talk about, there's one in particular who talks about like being on tour all the time and like partying and the culture that comes with that. And he's like, but the thing is, like when you have kids, like you may be up until 4 a.m. doing drugs, doing whatever, but like your baby's going to be up at 6 and you have to get up with it. And so it's a shift in mindset. And I think that it is one of the challenges of being an artist, or, you know, a lot of careers have this, but like you have to sacrifice when you have other demands in your life. And I think a lot of especially popular left-leaning artists now don't have those kind of responsibilities because they defer becoming parents, and so they can continue to pursue this path and push the ideology.
I want to say the right is learning, but I don't know if that's really what's happening. I think what's happening is there are liberals who are joining the right. That people who were used to be into the arts and fairly left-leaning, who were either forced out or who saw how crazy the left was getting and moved out. So there's this movie coming out, My Son Hunter. Is that what it is? My Son Hunter, I think it's called.
It's called.
And the dude who put it together, I think he's the guy from Goonies, right?
I'm
Which
not sure.
guy?
That's what you told me.
Robert Davey,
Yeah, that's all I know is what
Yeah.
you told me. Yeah.
guy from Goonies. So I'm thinking what's happening is that there are people who had the skills and know how to make this content, start realizing how crazy things are getting, and are bringing that art and culture to the right, and the right needs to support and embrace it. Like the Daily Wire, they get it.
Yeah.
They've repeatedly said that we're not making political stuff. We're just making shows and movies, and they're buying movies because they get it.
I think Jeremy, all those guys, man, Michael, Jeremy, they're an example of like perceptive tolerance. I'm on the left. I mean, I was like I guess you'd say a leftist. I was a liberal, like wacky, zany artist my whole life, and I just left because it was like, don't tell me I have white privilege. You know, you got to use better words than that if you want to communicate with me.
Yeah. But
I'm not going to be sitting told that I'm a demon. I'm not living that way. So I disassociated from those people. But people like Jeremy doesn't give. Like, he just loves people. You know, he just likes cool people.
They hired a Disney executive to be their chief marketing
Really
officer.
cool.
That means that this Disney executive now reports to a man who goes to church on Sunday.
Fascinating.
That's seriously taken over the space and taken it away from them. So I hope they can continue to grow and expand, because the Daily Wire really needs those smart TV apps. I know we do too, but I can just say, like, with the amount of resources they have, you know, they're going to get there before we do. But we've been having a bunch of meetings about getting our mobile apps and our TV apps so that you can watch what shows we have as soon as possible, on your TVs.
I'm glad you brought up.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.